the construct, right? Just think about how kind of regulatory reporting works in today's world. Things happen during the day. They go from often there's multiple legacy systems. As Caitlin alluded to earlier, often you've got multiple people doing the same thing. So there's a lot of processes of aggregating, normalizing, cleansing that, and eventually it gets sent to regulators who then hopefully get it in some uniform format, but then there may just even be different silos within the regulator of trying to make sense of all of that. So, it's the system we have, and it's important. I mean, I think, one of the things that gives investors confidence in markets, is market integrity, and somebody is monitoring it and that's making sense of it. But, the new paradigm that could be created, and it's not here today, but it's going directionally in this direction, is with these blockchain and distributed ledgers and the auditor or regulator nodes that were alluded to. So the minute a transaction happens, it gets recorded on the ledger. So all the parties to the transaction sort of see it, and the regulator is aware of it as well. So then that means you don't need to go report it again at the end of the day because it's already there. And then because it's in a single ledger that everybody is using for different business purposes, there are sort of checks because, if at 2 o'clock you did the trade and at 3 o'clock, you need to make the first payment, you say, oh, this is wrong, then it gets fixed. So it's sort of self-cleansing. The data quality is there, whereas a lot of the time when you just kind of report stuff into a database and no one actually ever really uses it and checks it again, the data quality may not be there. So what happens is you start to get this kind of new type of ecosystem where the data is kind of created, and at the moment of being created, it becomes accessible to the regulator. So the verb reporting doesn't even make sense anymore. It's completely new because at the moment of creation, it becomes available. So then the regulator can start to monitor this information as it's happening in real time. They can detect, shenanigans in the market. They can start to detect, fraud and manipulation. They can start to see buildups of risk as it's happening. So, think of it, I like to use kind of the metaphor of a car, right? Like right now, with regulatory reporting, everything you see is pretty much through the rear view mirror. You sort of get a report at the end of the day and you see what happened, earlier in the day, you get it tomorrow, and then you see what happened yesterday. And that stuff is very, very important. But with this sort of the new kind of model, if you see data, if you see events as they're unfolding, you're actually seeing them, through the windshield. And when you see them through the windshield as they're happening, you can monitor them. You can try to, you detect harm, which gives the regulator greater opportunity to detect harms to investors. They can actually avert harm, mitigate the buildup of risk. And, maybe that's not even the right metaphor. I mean, maybe in fact, the regulator becomes not just a car on the road, but they're like, somebody in the traffic helicopter or above it or something who sees all the cars and all the roads and starts to monitor it. So, this technology, I think, can really lead us in a direction to make the markets safer. And, there's work that need to be done, tools and skills to develop it. But I think, the investor, will be protected in the long run. And I think you could have, safer and actually more efficient regulation and eliminate a lot of duplication with better and more efficient results.